Okay. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you, sir? So thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, my pleasure. Nice to have you on the show. Your bio and your story sounded real interesting. And as we were talking about before we got on, I have done some flying, although I never quite got my private license. Long story short, I had a terrible teacher, an absolute awful flight instructor. At the time I did it, I was like 25 or 26 years old. This was back in the 80s. And this guy was well into his 60s. I think he was a World War II veteran. And he reminded me of Arlie Ermy from Full Metal Jacket. He was just like this, drill sergeant sort of a guy. And
Yeah.
he just made the whole experience very unpleasant. I mean, I can remember the first time I did my landing, and I missed the center line by about 3 feet. And he never let up on that. Everything else was fine.
Pretty good.
Yeah, everything else was fine. I didn't bounce all the way down the runway.
Yeah.
But he just 3 feet off, and I failed. So I don't know.
Well, I want to encourage you that you're bitten by the bug and you have the passion to give it another go because I had the same experience when I started. I had always loved flying like you. I had the passion and I went over to Santa Monica Airport and I took it in those days. It was an introductory flight, I think, for $10 or something like that. And went to different places. And I was placed with very young kids who at this time, I was 25 also. Or actually, I was 27, I think, when I started flying, a little older. And I just was so turned off by I didn't feel comfortable or safe. So the last place I went to, I told the uh, receptionist about it. And wouldn't you know, they trotted out an old gentleman named Bill Beecher. And he was the nicest guy. And just I felt like, oh, my father's going to teach me flying. So I felt so comfortable. But the instructor does make a difference. But you got the bug, sir. I encourage you to do it again.
Well, the instructor does make a difference because you're doing something very precarious like flying, and you're going to be nervous enough just with, being up in the air in this little,
Oh my
aluminum
goodness.
can.
Yes. 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 I thought every time I was going to go up, the plane was going to fall out of the sky, until I really understood how it flies and could handle it and all
Yeah,
that good
exactly.
stuff.
So
Remember
you,
one time my instructor, he said, I was like getting nervous and he said, do you think I'm up here and I'm going to want to break my bones? Don't worry. Chill. Okay, I'll try.
so looking at your bio, you were not a commercial pilot though, right? You didn't work for the airlines or,
No, that was my dream. But when I tried, when I was graduating college, they had perfect vision requirements, and being blind as a bat and wearing glasses my whole life and contacts, no way I could do it. There was only one exception if you were 2080 correctable to 2020, and that was with Allegheny Airlines. But so no, I never made my dream come true. Although it came close, as I share in my book, when I represented some fellows running an airline.
okay.
So
Well, let me get a little bit to your story because this sounds really interesting. So, the book is called Vagabond Pilot, A Voyage of Discovery and Renewal. Um, it says that you lost your savings and your home due to your brother's. Your brother died and he left. What did he leave you? All kinds of debt? Or what's
he
that
left a
story?
mess. He
Yeah.
left a mess. Well, this is my older brother who's always played a very big part in my life. 6 years my elder, and he stayed in New York and worked with my dad, who was a very successful real estate lawyer. And being that of all that sibling rivalry and competing for our father's attention and love, I went out to the West Coast, got a job out here, and did my own thing. But many years later, he called me and he needed my help, and he was in some trouble. And I had always wanted to work in the family business. So I started working with him, and then when he died, all the things he had told me about his relationships with clients and things he were doing were not true, and a lot of people were not happy about losing a lot of money that my brother appropriated, is a kind word. And so I became the center of everybody's attention because my last name, as the court once, one court said, your name is Young. And I said, but I'm not my brother. It doesn't matter. So it was a difficult time, and I was forced into bankruptcy and lost everything.
What was the business, if I might ask? Was it investment?
The business that my brother was in?
Right.
It was a law firm in New York.
Oh, okay.
And he had a penchant, can I say, for using his clients' money in an improper way.
Gambling? Was he a casino?
Oh, that's my next book.
Okay.
I'm not sure what his issues were, but it was very unsettling because it didn't make any sense.
All right. Well, we don't have to go there.
Anyway, yeah.
So, okay. So
it's what got me onto this journey, so there you go.
All right. So that happened, and you decided to take off and fly across the country in your little airplane as a kind of a cathartic lesson of some kind?
Yes, I was actually homeless. I didn't know where to go, and some friends who I had put up when they moved out to California said, come stay with us, cash in your chips, stay as long as you want. So I stayed a few months, and my dream was always to fly across the country in my plane. I thought I had done it by car a couple of times, and I thought that would be really great to see it from the air. And I was really depressed. I was beaten. I was down. Now being older, I thought my later years when retirement was going to be just peachy keen. I had it all, and all of a sudden I just didn't know what to do. So I needed to get myself out of the doldrums, and I thought getting in the left seat of my plane, which I felt so comfortable and I'm so passionate about flying, it was always an escape for me. This would be a good thing to do. And I'd get some nourishment from friends and from the flying, and I'd regroup, and I just threw my hands up and I figured, well, let's see where the universe is going to bring me. What's going to happen? Is this the end? Is this the new beginnings? And thankfully, by that initiative, it's turned out to be new adventures and new beginnings. And I got past the doldrums that I was mired in.
Okay, so where did you start?
Santa Monica, my home base, and first stop was Tucson, where I was with some friends, and then on to Phoenix, over to Roswell, Dallas, Houston, New Orleans, up to Wilmington, North Carolina, and then last stop, Danbury, Connecticut.
Okay, so you sort of took the southern route across the country, yeah. I know that in the plane you were in was a Grumman, is that correct?
A Grumman Yankee. It was souped up a little bit. I had installed a bigger engine from 108 horsepower to 160 horsepower.
Okay.
And it's a two-seater, kind of as I describe it, a kind of an MGB or a little Triumph or Mazda Miata with wings.
It's cozy, that's for sure. It's definitely cozy. Now, those planes obviously are not pressurized, so you're not flying that high. What was
Correct.
the maximum altitude that you would get to?
The service ceiling is 13,000 feet.
Okay.
I found myself flying close there too, due to a lot of convective activity in the Southwest, climbing up and over the clouds all the time. And as I shared, a major event happened on my way from Longmont, Colorado. On the way back I was trying to get to Tucson and beat a storm. And I went all the way up to 13,000 feet. That was the highest.
Okay, so would you fly about 300 nautical miles a day?
That's correct. Well, depending on what the winds were, I had 3 hours of fuel. The aircraft true airspeed, meaning in still air, was 130 knots. So I could go anywhere, usually 350 to 500, depending on the winds, a leg.
All right, so how long did this entire journey take you?
Well, about 70 flying hours, a little shy of 70 flying hours back and forth. Over a few months. I spent about 6 weeks in New York with friends when I got there. A friend and I went to Europe, and we came back, and then I came back, and then I planned my return route.
Oh,
so over 4 months total time.
I see. So you flew from California to the East Coast and back, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So
yes.
After you finished that adventure, did it work in terms of helping you get your head back together and get your life going again?
It worked indeed, because my confidence was growing again, and I felt confident. And when I realized that I flew this little plane, which, as we talked before we got on the air, you have a little flying experience. That's really a training aircraft. It's not a cross-country machine. And so to do that and go back and forth across the country, handling adverse weather, a couple of instrument approaches along the way, I said, if I flew this thing across America, I can do anything. So it was the perfect tonic. I think it was also all the nourishment and love from friends and people, and falling in love with America also was stirred into that renewed confidence.
Oh, well, that's great. So the book is called Vagabond Pilot. When did you write the book?
I was writing the book, Doug, as I was flying.
Oh, okay.
At every stop, I would write, because I originally started doing it as a form of therapy, as you mentioned. This would be good for me to get out all this stuff that happened and try to put it down on paper and take a look at it. And as I was going, and I was sharing it with a couple of folks, you ought to think about putting this into a book. It's really sounding great. So I did, and I wrote contemporaneously pretty much, finished it off when I came back. I think the hardest part in writing was the editing, because the editor from Red Sky, a lovely lady named Charlene Keel, she was merciless in cutting out all my wonderful prose, but it's a great sense of accomplishment to do so.
So is the book sort of formatted in like a diary journal kind of format?
It kind of is, sort of. I'm not sure how to really describe it. I break chapters. Chapters aren't chapters. They are designated chapters, but I break them down into two components. The flying component, what the trip was about, going from one place to another, and the stay with my friends. So it's always broken into leg two, and then all the flying and the details of what I put into my logbook, and then followed the story of what I experienced on that leg. And then I would go into the next sub-chapter of that particular chapter called Friends. And I would describe who these people were in my life, and what I observed, and how they nourished me on the journey.
Well, Bob, we are out of time, unfortunately. We got to wind this down.
We just started.
Oh, I told you 15 goes very quick.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
So the book is out now and available?
It is available on Amazon, or Vagabond Pilot, A Journey of Discovery and Renewal, or on at Red Sky Presents, www.redskypresents.com. That's my publisher.
All right, Bob. Well, thanks so much for coming on this show. It was
Doug, thank you so much for having me, and get back into that left seat, sir.
Well, I think one day maybe.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes. But anyways, take care. Best of luck.
Yeah. to everybody. Bye-bye.